The RockShox ZEB has been out for about 2 years now, and it's an extremely popular fork among aggressive riders. Its stiffness, weight, adjustability, and performance make this a very sought-after front squisher. But just like every shampoo on the grocery store shelves, the RockShox ZEB is new and improved. But what's new and what's improved? Stay tuned and you'll find out. We really love suspension here at the Lost Co, and we really love it when a company takes an already amazing fork or shock and tweaks it to make it even better somehow. The RockShox ZEB is one of our favorite forks in the market for aggressive trail, enduro, and freeride style bikes, and we are legitimately excited to see it get even better, somehow. Now, the engineers at RockShox have been putting their big brains to use to make these revisions happen, and one of my favorite quotes I heard from one of the engineers was, "Yeah, that was a lot of work." So in this video, we're gonna cover these new revisions and then hit the trail to see if all of that hard work paid off. Now, before we dive in, I wanted to mention that this won't be a full-on overview of the RockShox ZEB fork, as we already have a video covering that, which you can check out by clicking up here. The new and improved RockShox ZEB has the exact same 38mm stanchions, same CSU, and mostly the same lower legs as before. However, there's some really cool noticeable additions on the outside, but there's a ton of really cool new stuff on the inside that I'm super excited to share with you guys in just a second. The first revision that you'll notice from the outside are the bleed valves on the lower legs, which are used to release any air built up in the lowers caused by variations in altitude or temperature. These are becoming more popular on forks these days, and it's a pretty sweet feature that we're happy to see added to the ZEB. These come on the ZEB Ultimate and Select Plus. Another visible change are the optional hub end cap adapters for hubs without the RockShox torque cap end caps, and these make it easier to install and use a hub without those torque caps. All right, now let's go inside the fork to see where the really cool new stuff is happening. The ZEB now has a brand new Charger 3 damper, a new Debonair Plus air spring, vibration reducing pucks called Buttercups, better bushings, and a totally new low friction oil. First up, let's look at the biggest change, which is the Charger 3 damper. The previous ZEB used the Charger 2.1, which was no slouch in the trail. That damper had a cult following due to its incredible performance and simplicity to set up. The 2.1 used an expanding bladder design, which made it very plush and supple. The new Charger 3, however, is totally new and designed from the ground up. It's a sealed cartridge damper utilizing a spring-backed IFP, or independent floating piston, for ultra sensitivity. Basically, there's a little coil spring pushing the piston, and we all know how plush and consistent coil springs are. The damper's oiling system is also self-equalizing and has the ability to both ingest and expel oil all on its own. This results in the seals not needing to be as extremely tight as with the bladder like before, which also increases sensitivity. Like the Charger 2.1 RC2 used in the ZEB Ultimate before, the Charger 3 has the same adjustments: low speed and high speed compression on the top and a single rebound adjustment on the bottom. However, the new damper's compression circuits are truly independent of one another. According to RockShox, this design is unlike any other damper before to claim independence between the circuits. Generally speaking, suspension with multiple circuits on compression or rebound will have some crosstalk when making adjustments. Turning the low-speed compression a little bit would slightly affect the high-speed compression circuit as well, etc. With the Charger 3, a click of low-speed compression doesn't affect high-speed compression at all, making tuning extremely easy. This is crazy because I thought that the last damper was as easy as it could get to tune. Another awesome feature of the Charger 3 is that it was designed to somehow be virtually silent. I really don't know how they did this, but during our initial testing and just squishing it in the shop, it was one of the first things that we noticed. It's seriously very weird how quiet this is. Everybody loves a silent bike, and there's nothing better than hitting bumps without hearing how hard your suspension is working to keep you stable. This might seem like a pretty small benefit, but it's a very huge upgrade in our eyes. Besides the damper being redesigned, the Debonair air spring has too. The new ZEB now features the new Debonair Plus. This new air spring has been revised and retuned to offer more sensitive small bump sensitivity and overall higher ride height. It might seem like the Debonair is revised every couple of years, and well, it is. These marginal changes over time are what add up to huge changes after every several years, and we love watching the progression of the Debonair stuff. All right, so we showed the new Charger 3.0 and Debonair Plus, but you might have noticed a little bit of gold on both of those. Now, both the damper and air spring have the new RockShox Buttercups at their base.
Buttercup! Buttercup! Don't you leave me!
What the heck is a Buttercup, you may ask? Well, Buttercups are low amplitude, vibration reducing compliant material pucks. Yes, I took that right out of the RockShox verbiage because I'm not an engineer and I could not explain it better myself. Simply put, the base part has a rubber bumper wedged between those two gold pieces of metal, which acts as a vibration absorber between the damper or air spring and the fork's chassis. The reason for this is to prevent trail chatter from reaching your hands on the handlebars. And it's something RockShox is super excited about bringing over from many other industries that use this technology and into the mountain bike world. According to RockShox, Buttercups eliminate trail chatter feedback by 20%, which you can see by looking at this cool, colorful graph. And we'll put the graph on the screen, there we go. I personally had no idea what this graph is showing since I ain't no engineer, but a RockShox engineer explained it to me pretty well. Long story short, this shows the amount of high frequency vibration making its way from the tire and up through the wheel, fork, steer tube, bar, stem, and to the rider's hands, and this data was recorded using some fancy on-bike instrumentation. And last but not least, the new ZEB Ultimate now has longer bushings in the lower legs for increased bushing overlap and an even smoother ride. The upper and lower bushings make more contact with the stanchions now, reducing frictions from side loads during compression. This is only featured on the ZEB Ultimate model. Now, plus the ZEB now uses Maxima Plush Dynamic Suspension Lube, which was designed exclusively between RockShox and Maxima. This new oil is claimed to properly lubricate parts longer and reduce friction. This new oil is backwards compatible with any RockShox fork using 0 weight 30 oil, and we've actually got a couple people here at the shop who use this new oil in their older fork, and they said it was a pretty awesome improvement. Hopefully we can test more with that and let you know how that works. Now, before we talk about how the new ZEB performs on the trail, it's worth mentioning that many of these new features are also used in the brand new Pike and Lyric forks, so it's easier than ever to choose between these three popular fork options, since the top dog models share many of these same features that you see on the new ZEB. So that long list of added features we talked about make it seem like this fork has had some massive changes from the RockShox engineers. So now, let's talk about how these changes feel on the trail. Let's go. I almost fell. All right, riding the new ZEB. Got a few rides on this thing, and I've got to say, RockShox did an excellent job as always. I know RockShox did a whole ton of work to this fork. You know, chassis revisions, air spring revisions, entirely new damper, but geez, out of all of these, I've got to say, this fact that this damper doesn't make any noise whatsoever is amazing. Now, I know it's just a small bullet point on the list of features from this new ZEB, but man, this damper being silent, it's not only the first thing you notice, but it's kind of like, it's just amazing right off the bat. I mean, my other fork makes a decent amount of noise and you don't really realize it until you're riding. It's kind of like the Onyx of hubs, but in forks. My initial impressions of the new Charger 3 are pretty much just what I thought they'd be. I mean, that new damper design, the seals aren't as tight and, you know, oil is a little bit more free-flowing. And it just gives it that little bit of extra traction feel on the trail. Initial setup on the fork is super easy. I mean, just like the Charger 2.1 RC2, I mean, it is so simple. Shoot, with the way that the dials are and all the lines to easily show the adjustments on compression, pretty much just set it right in the middle and just add clicks of low and high as you go and just do what feels right. Every click of high or low speed compression, you can feel the difference. And this is not common in suspension. A lot of times there's kind of like this, you know, just ride it for a while and feel what it's doing and see if it's changed anything. But I'm not kidding, it's one click here, one click there, and you feel exactly what it did right away. And that makes tuning suspension extremely easy. Overall, I'm really excited, not just to ride this myself, but like I said, I think that this is going to be the fork that a majority of riders are after moving forward here for the next couple years until something even better comes out somehow. So let's keep watching the progression of suspension and enjoying it as we go. Good job, engineers. All right, what's up, guys? I am joined here with Tor.
Hello.
Back at our studio, and we have ridden the heck out of this brand new RockShox ZEB for the past few days. And now it's time to talk about whether or not all these cool new features are worth it on the trail.
Every year, RockShox comes out with incremental improvements, and so, this is one of those. It's just a step forward in the right direction, and we are loving what they're doing with the new ZEB.
Absolutely. I mean, geez, I've got quite a bit of riding in. I packed as much as I could into the few days that we had for this fork to test it out and see how it feels. And I mean, geez, there's damper, air spring, all sorts of revisions. So I think that we should probably start with the damper because there's a lot going on here. We've got different revised adjustments. We've got different IFP set up with how the damper works. And then we've got these fabulous Buttercups.
Buttercups!
Now let's talk about the top. What do you think about the adjustments?
Yeah, so the adjustments are very similar to what you see on the previous ZEB. We've got the low speed and the high speed compression right on top there, but the execution is a little bit different with this generation. You'll just be moving from center rather than just having a random dial. They give you a little more perspective as to where you're sitting in the clicks, so you don't have to write your clicks down. You can just take one look at it and know exactly where you are in the compression settings.
Absolutely, and also they've been not only minimalized in the fact that they have very visible, very beautiful, I might point out. Good job, engineers. Very good marks on each single click. So you know exactly where you're at. There's no total guessing, hoping that you are actually at 4 clicks like you remembered 4 months ago or any of that. And then also, there's less total clicks. There's still 5 positions in the high-speed compression, but now instead of 20, like the Charger 2.1, there are only 15 positions in the low speed. So it is technically a little bit more simple to set up, and I thought that the old one was as simple as it could get. So they did a great job of even simplifying it further.
Yeah, even on my first ride, I had no problems getting the compression exactly where I wanted it, and I was the quickest fork setup I've had in a long time. So that was easy to just put it on and start enjoying it right away.
And in true RockShox fashion, 1 click of low-speed compression was noticeable, 1 click of high-speed compression was noticeable, not like some other brands where you have to do a couple clicks at a time to actually notice it and tune it. So for that, it's super easy. And then the other thing that's worth mentioning is the independence between the low and high-speed compression circuits. They did a really good job to make that what they consider the first damper to actually be truly independent. And I mean, by the way that it felt on the trail, I would say that that seems like it worked.
Absolutely. 1 click of high-speed compression, it was independent from the low speed. It was tangible difference between every click, which was really satisfying to feel out on the trail. And I think my personal favorite part of this new damper is it is dead silent. Going down the trail, you cannot hear your fork at all. It's a weird feeling, and I am totally here for it. I think it's one of my new favorite features of this brand new ZEB.
When we first got this fork into the shop, everyone took a go at doing the usual thing and taking the bike and squishing it and bouncing it on it, and everyone's like,
what?
Why doesn't it make noise? And we were like, it's silent.
Yeah.
It's silent now. And no one believed, if that was the only thing that changed,
Yep.
I think that everyone would be sold on the new fork. And on the trail, it's crazy. You don't really actually realize how loud your suspension is until you have something silent, kind of like with hubs.
Absolutely. Yep. It'd be hard to go back now to a normal suspension fork, or I guess an older suspension fork that would be yelling at you going down the trail.
Yeah, I talked to our engineer friend at RockShox about how they did it, and he explained in some terminology that I didn't really explain, but hey, it works, and I am pumped on that, so Good job, guys.
Well done.
Last but not least, on the bottom of the damper here, we got this whole Buttercup system. It's not only in the damper, but it's also in the air spring. We've got those charts to show the spikes and things like that. And again, I'm not an engineer. I don't know how that stuff works. But, I mean, the dyno or whatever that they had measuring the chatter or feedback vibration showed that it was proven on some sort of machine that it did lessen the vibrations. And I would say that it felt like it helped a little bit. These are incremental changes. I don't think anyone's got to go and throw their old fork out and buy the new one. But again, it's something that I'm really stoked is brought over from other industries.
Yeah, absolutely. It's again, an incremental change. I'm coming off of the previous ZEB, and so I can't say that I noticed a huge difference with the Buttercups, but we're also riding fairly wet trails here in Bellingham. I think it would be a little more noticeable with harder packed dirt and more vibrations coming through the fork, but incremental changes are good, and we're moving in the right direction, so Buttercups are good.
Yeah, you coming from California where it's like way more dry and rough and rocky, that's probably the best place to test for that stuff. But I can say that I dropped into the trail and my hands were really cold this morning, and I have this thing where my hands like cramp up when I first drop in and it's chilly outside. And this morning I didn't really feel that, so I wonder if that has something to play with it. I don't know, but that's just what I felt.
Certainly didn't hurt, that's for sure. Yeah.
Other leg, we've got the Debonair Plus revised Debonair air spring. Again, you know, revisions over the years make it really, really cool.
And so with this edition of the Debonair Plus, you're gonna be riding a little bit higher in the travel. That was the most noticeable thing first ride on this bike was just how much more travel it felt like I had with the same 170 millimeter length of travel. It felt like I just had more travel to play with. And it felt like it didn't sacrifice any of that small bump compliance. I still was just buttery off the top. And then I got into that mid-stroke and it just felt so supportive. And I had a really hard time bottoming out this fork. I don't think I bottomed it out once throughout testing it.
Yeah, me either. It's actually only got one token, and I started with the recommended air pressure from RockShox, and just for the heck of it, I took a bunch of, I took like 10 PSI out of it. And yeah, I mean, the way that it's tuned, you know, the less air pressure, it gobbled up small bumps and stuff better, but still it had tons of mid-stroke support. So that goes to show you can take a bunch of air out and still feel like you're cradled pretty well without just blowing through your travel. So I really liked that. I actually thought it was pretty funny how the new revised ZEB actually came to fruition. Didn't even sound like they were planning on making one. They were actually making a new revised Lyric, and they were doing a new chassis for that and a new damper for that. And then they decided, hey, this new damper, to get maximum performance out of it, we actually have to change the bushings and lower. So then they kind of went and did that, and then they got carried away and they did the new air spring. And so then they also, to get more performance, they needed to make a proprietary suspension fluid with Maxima. And so they just kept doing all these things and making this all work together as a system. And then they were like, hey, let's just put it all into the ZEB and also the Pike. So it's really cool, the ZEB and the Lyric and the Pike all share all these same cool new characteristics.
It just started as a chassis redesign for the Lyric, and now we've got a whole new suspension lineup from RockShox. It's pretty amazing. It's like, oh, we decide that, oh, we need more performance out of the Lyric. Well, I guess we need more performance out of everything. So we just got all new stuff all around the board.
It was like one person was like, hey, look what I found out.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
everyone was like, oh, cool.
Whoa, that would work really good over here too.
Forks. Yeah. So when it comes to the bushings and the new oil, I mean, the fork was smooth. It felt really good. It's like, this is just one of those products that just feels so good and everything's so dialed, you're not even sure where to start and what to start talking about.
Everything works so seamlessly together, it's hard to even say like, oh, the bushings were smooth, or oh, the oil was smooth. Everything just came together really nicely, and there's no one thing to really point at to say this is why, or it's hard to get really too specific, I suppose, just because it all works well together. It's just a fork that does fork stuff, just incredible. And honestly, for that reason, and the simplicity and everything like that, and being dead silent, freaking cool. I think this is probably going to be one of the most popular forks here moving forward. This is probably the fork at the moment. All right, guys, that's pretty much everything you need to know about the new and improved RockShox ZEB. If you're interested in grabbing one of these silent assassins to hit the trails, then head over to our website at thelostco.com. We got free shipping over $49 in the USA. These will definitely ship for free. And hopefully by the time you're watching this video, we've got these aftermarket Charger 3 dampers, because you can actually put this into your older RockShox ZEB and hit the trails. So until next time. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you like the video, or if you enjoyed the information about the ZEB, and hit subscribe if you want to see some more mountain biking content. Thanks, guys.
Peace out. Bye.